A glowing, magical blonde girl floats into a dark bedroom, telling the terrified kid on the bed not to panic. But the kid is completely startled and absolutely smacks herself in the face. Wincing in pain, she realizes this definitely isn't a dream. The glowing girl totally freaks out, asking what on earth she's doing. She gently scolds the kid for hurting her own face. Floating down, she kneels right in front of the traumatized girl. Reaching out with a warm hand, she wipes away her tears and asks if she's okay. The glowing girl apologizes for the whole floating in the air jump scare. She quickly shushes her, explaining that she's totally invisible to the room's surveillance magic. Then she places a mysterious glowing object into the kid's hands. She promises that this single item is the key to saving both her and her mother. Confused, the kid asks why she's helping and where she even got it. We jump back to a flashback, where a flamboyant magician with a rainbow hat demands absolute secrecy. The magician hands over the glowing stone, making the little girl's safety the ultimate priority. He warns her that everyone in the territory knows her face. To keep her completely off the radar, he casts a shrinking spell and a heavy protection charm on the mana stone. He assures her this magic will keep her perfectly safe on her mission. Smirking, the girl agrees that keeping this a total secret is their best play. Back in the present, the glowing girl looks the kid dead in the eyes and vows to save her no matter what. She starts to explain exactly how the magical item works. But suddenly, her glowing projection starts glitching out and shrinking away. Riding on the back of a massive bird outside the window, she quickly yells her goodbyes, leaving the kid totally dumbfounded. The real girl and her giant feathered ride swoops silently past the massive castle towers. She spots a guy looking out a window and wonders if he's tracking her mana or just being a creep. Either way, she finds him repulsive and realizes he's pulled this stunt 1,000 times before. Glaring down at the old man, she makes a silent vow to make sure he gets what's coming to him. Suddenly, the spirit guide hovering over her tells her to look down at the courtyard. She gasps in shock as she realizes there are bodies littered everywhere. Telling her bird to get a little closer, she hyperfocuses. Her magical pendant flashes intensely as she unleashes her power. The giant bird struggles against the magic at first but quickly gets the hang of it, flying like a pro. Looking down, they realize every single knight and maid is knocked out cold by sleep magic. But then she spots something moving in the shadows and recoils in pure horror. It's the Archduke and the Empress, aggressively swapping spit on the ground like a couple of wild teenagers. She cringes out of her mind, completely grossed out by these supposedly virtuous nobles. The Archduke blushes like a total weirdo, acting all coy. The Empress wipes her mouth and angrily demands to know if he brought the goods. Crouched like a gargoyle, the Archduke eagerly confirms he has it. He pulls out a wildly suspicious glowing potion, buttering her up with greasy compliments. The little girl watches from above, instantly recognizing that the item is highly illegal. She scoffs, finally connecting the dots on their dirty little secret. Realizing things are about to get chaotic, she and her giant bird dive back into the night sky. Fast forward to morning, and absolute chaos is already erupting at the mansion as someone violently hammers on a door. A red-haired kid in teddy bear pajamas is losing his mind, screaming for Ellie, while a silver-haired guy has a full-blown meltdown on the floor. The silver-haired guy panics, screaming about where everyone could possibly be. Another guy pops his head in, totally confused by the morning circus. The silver-haired guy violently pounds his head against the wood, devastated that Ellie's room is locked. Annoyed, the newcomer asks the pajama kid why he's even trying to barge into a girl's room at the crack of dawn. Blushing and fidgeting, the kid mumbles the creepiest excuse ever: he just wanted to watch her sleep. Meanwhile, the silver-haired guy is still on the floor, absolutely convinced he's been abandoned like a stray puppy. Ellie and Theo run happily through the quiet streets, grinning from ear to ear as she completely praises him for being the ultimate assistant. He offers to grab the key, but suddenly Ellie freezes in pure panic. Back at her bedroom, her dad and brother are standing right outside her door. Her dad is completely baffled, wondering if she's hitting puberty since her voice sounds so different. The door slowly creaks open, revealing the whole family squad standing there with their arms crossed. They stroll into the room, wondering what all the morning chaos is about, while her brother points out her voice is suddenly back to normal. Ellie stands there in a heavy black cloak, sweating bullets and making up a totally weak excuse about just being hot from wearing too many layers. She quickly slams the door shut in their faces, hiding the fact that she had literally stuffed her bed with a giant sack to fake her sleeping body. Slumping to the floor next to Theo, she lets out a massive yell, thinking she was completely busted. She apologizes for the delay, explaining she had to run a quick errand. Theo is literally sobbing on the floor, thinking she had left him in the dust. A blonde guy suddenly chimes in, and Ellie explains that the guy she met up with is one of her elite, totally secret squad members. The blonde guy is confused about why she's making moves at the crack of dawn, but she insists it was a priority that couldn't wait. She tells the boys they did a great job and to get some rest, while her giant magical bird pieces out through the window. Finally alone, Ellie collapses onto the floor like a deflated balloon with a massive sigh. Even though she almost got caught, she silently monologues that finding out the truth was worth it to stop a massive chain of destruction. Sitting on her bed, she packs up a glowing magical stone, plotting her next high-stakes move to meet the Imperial family. She holds up a mysterious cracked blue egg, completely baffled that it randomly transformed overnight. She racks her brain, trying to figure out what triggered the magical shift. A quick flashback shows a grimy little winged kid handing her the strange item in the past. She wonders if this magical artifact is actually reacting directly to people's emotions. Fast forward, someone complains about having to go undercover this early in the morning. But there's no backing down as they stare up at an absolutely massive, glittering imperial castle. Her three undercover sidekicks sweat drop, whispering that this infiltration mission is totally unhinged and they definitely need a bigger paycheck. One of them fully agrees, ready to demand her entire mansion as a reward. A guy with a goatee just smirks, clearly ready for the chaos. Meanwhile, a maid gently calls out to Ellie, telling her it's time to get dressed for the big event. Standing in the middle of a massive sunlit room, Ellie takes a deep breath and says she's ready. Cut to an absolutely wild outdoor gala, where the crowd completely loses their minds as Duke Brant casually strolls in with his entire elite family. Ellie instantly starts short-circuiting, completely overwhelmed by the massive commotion. Dressed in a wildly extravagant gown, she looks around nervously while confetti rains down like a parade. Up on a balcony, the goatee guy from her crew is literally tossing the confetti, cheering for his little money tree. Seeing her squat up there, Ellie cracks a small smile, relieved her infiltration team made it in smoothly. The announcer officially booms Duke Brant and Lady Alina's names across the courtyard. While the noble ladies totally simp over the Duke's striking red eyes, the creepy, fat archduke from the courtyard absolutely shivers in fear. An angry noble seethes with pure jealousy over the Brant family stealing all the spotlight. The Duke stands tall, radiating absolute boss energy as he glares at the crowd. The other nobles whisper behind their fans, trash-talking the Brants and calling them completely abnormal dogs. Ellie spots a noble girl and mentally cringes, wondering if she knows about her dad's dirty little secret with the Empress. A blonde guy in glasses talks to Ellie about using a literal snake for medicine, while she bows, looking absolutely exhausted by the conversation. Suddenly, the greasy archduke waddles up to the Brant squad, bowing respectfully. He completely kisses up to the Duke, praising little Alina's kind heart. The Duke instantly lights up with proud dad energy, bragging that having a daughter is the greatest thing in the world. The Archduke awkwardly laughs along while Ellie physically recoils, feeling horribly guilty about her web of lies catching up to her. Trying to network, the Archduke looks around for his son, Edwin, to introduce him. The second Ellie hears the name Edwin, warning bells completely go off in her head. She frantically whips her head around, scanning the sea of nobles to find him. She desperately searches the room, wondering where this kid is hiding. Suddenly, a voice calls out to the Archduke, making Ellie completely freeze. A blonde boy casually walks up, apologizing and claiming he was just off reading a book. The Archduke proudly introduces his son to the Duke. The frame cuts to an extreme close-up of Ellie's striking red eye as she locks onto her target with absolute intensity. Edwin steps up with a slick, polite smile, introducing himself to the Duke. Ellie forces a smile back, internally hyping herself up to play the perfect noble daughter and keep her cover intact. As she drops her fake name, Edwin gives her a subtle look, definitely intrigued. But her dad instantly clocks that something is off. Edwin leans in, asking if she's crying, but Ellie quickly rubs her eyes and makes up a totally weak excuse. Suddenly, someone steps right in front of her, completely blocking Edwin's view. It's Theo stepping up to the noble kid and firmly telling him to back off. The tension spikes, but Duke Brant steps in, strictly ordering Theo to apologize for the misunderstanding. Without hesitating, Theo completely folds, bowing deeply to keep the peace. Edwin accepts it but drops a passive-aggressive warning, saying Theo's bad manners reflect poorly on his master. Ellie watches nervously, realizing she just made things 10 times worse for her loyal assistant. Before the drama can escalate, the announcer absolutely booms through the hall. The entire party freezes, turning their attention to the grand staircase. The imperial family has officially arrived, stepping down the stairs in pure royal style. The emperor warmly addresses the crowd, totally moved by how many people showed up. He stands tall with the empress and the birthday girl, Princess Raeliana, soaking in the massive applause. But Ellie isn't looking at the royals, her eyes instantly lock onto a specific target. She spots the emperor's personal sorcerer. The creepy old magic user stands near the stairs, looking way too smug. Meanwhile, Princess Reina suddenly lights up, spotting someone in the crowd. The nobles flood the royals with congratulations as the emperor proudly brags about his healthy 10-year-old daughter. The empress places a loving hand on Reina's shoulder, acting like the perfect mother. Watching this touching family moment, Ellie absolutely glares, utterly disgusted by the empress's fake facade. The emperor claps his hands to officially kick off the party, presenting a cake for the princess. The cake is absolutely colossal, leaving Ellie's squad totally wide-eyed. Suddenly, the greasy archduke waddles up, proudly announcing he brought the finest gift of all. He aggressively kisses up to the princess, and she politely thanks him. Meanwhile, Ellie's crew whispers in a panic, wondering if gifting the princess a literal snake is a huge mistake. But Ellie confidently tells them to trust her, knowing this snake is exactly what the princess always chooses. Back at the front, the emperor spots a glowing pocket watch on Theo and is completely mesmerized. The crowd murmurs about Theo being a beast whisperer as he announces that Lady Alina personally prepared this gift. Princess Reina gasps, totally starstruck that Alina made something just for her. She can't believe she was gifted her very own snake. The Archduke violently side-eyes the situation, skeptically asking if the beast even has any powers. Theo calmly claps back, explaining that it's highly intelligent and understands human speech. Ellie watches like a hawk, waiting for her master plan to spring into action. The nobles try to back the princess away so she doesn't get bitten, but they decide to trust the sorcerer's presence. The emperor smiles, asking Reina which of her massive pile of gifts she likes the best. Reina steps up, saying she needs to inspect them first. She approaches the golden snake, and it completely turns on the charm with massive, cute eyes. She gives the snake a gentle head rub, totally melting over it. The snake nudges her and she giggles adorably, saying it tickles. The emperor is literally holding back tears, just happy to see his daughter laughing. But the archduke is absolutely fuming in the background, realizing his gift is getting totally ignored. Reina holds the snake close and turns to her dad to make her final choice. But suddenly, a dark magical aura pulses from the snake, whispering a mind control command straight into Reina's head. The archduke flashes an absolutely wicked grin, clearly plotting something devious. Glowing with dark purple magic, Reina loudly declares that she likes Alina. Ellie physically recoils in shock, immediately realizing someone just hijacked the princess's mind. The mind control fully kicks in, and Reina violently screams that she wants Ellie like a total psycho. Out of nowhere, the snake snaps. The emperor screams his daughter's name in pure terror. Someone yells out for her highness as absolute panic sets in. The emperor completely abandons protocol, sprinting toward her through a swirling cloud of dark magic. Ellie watches, completely stunned by the sudden twist. Reina screams in agony as the snake wraps around her, its eyes glowing with a sinister purple energy. The emperor demands they get it away from her, and the sorcerer violently yeets the snake across the room. The entire gala erupts into absolute chaos, nobles murmuring and totally freaking out. Voices shout from the crowd, desperately demanding someone treat the princess immediately. The shady sorcerer plays dumb, claiming he's never seen such power while someone checks if Ellie is okay. The emperor is absolutely seeing red, screaming Duke Brant's name. He furiously stomps over to the Duke, demanding to know what kind of devious assassination plot he's trying to pull. Duke Brant stays completely composed, bowing and calmly stating he never intended to harm the royal family. Ellie's heart is hammering in her chest, this is spiraling way out of control. But the emperor isn't having it, taking the snake bite as a massive, unforgivable disrespect. Suddenly, Theo steps forward, cradling the snake, and insists he was actually trying to save her. The sorcerer immediately tries to cover his tracks, claiming the princess was surrounded by a dark aura and he was just trying to dispel it. Theo claps back hard, calling the guy crazy and stating he doesn't just go around hurting people. He points out that the nobles are only panicking because they saw brief flashes of wounds. The archduke and his lackeys nod, confirming they definitely saw gashes during the magical flash. Theo gestures to his own bandaged chest, challenging the entire room to take a closer look at the princess. He boldly asks if she actually looks like someone who just took a brutal attack. The crowd pauses, realizing the princess looks perfectly healthy and completely pain-free. The empress and the sorcerer start sweating bullets as the nobles realize all of Reina's alleged wounds have vanished into thin air. A quick flashback shows that the snake actually possesses high-tier healing magic. Panicking that their setup is falling apart, the empress aggressively screams for the emperor. She demands the immediate arrest of the entire Brant family. Spinning a wild narrative, she accuses them of using the whispering sorcerer to take the princess hostage. She claims this is a direct challenge to imperial authority, completely gaslighting the room. The shady sorcerer instantly backs her up, sealing the trap. Ellie angrily steps forward, shouting that they literally just came to wish the princess a happy birthday. But the emperor ignores her, giving the ultimate order to arrest them. He points a furious finger, commanding his men to lock up House Brandt. The heavy doors slam open, and elite guards march in to detain the family. Ellie freezes. This is exactly what she was trying to prevent. Armed guards quickly surround them, turning the grand hall into a tense standoff. Ellie's brothers look to their dad, completely ready to throw hands if he gives the word. But Duke Brandt just pulls Ellie into a protective hug, telling the boys to stand down. He gently tells her not to worry, completely unfazed by the royal guards. Suddenly, someone calls out to the emperor, instantly stopping the arrest. It's Edwin, dropping to one knee right in the middle of the chaos to formally introduce himself. Duke Brandt watches closely as the emperor recognizes the boy as the Cranmore family's second son. Edwin calmly states that during his extensive research on demons, he actually discovered an animal with the exact same power as the snake. The emperor squints, clearly intrigued by this sudden lore drop. Edwin confidently nods, laying out the facts. He drops a massive truth bomb. Animals that fall into magical rifts gain mysterious powers that pass down to their offspring. Connecting the dots, the emperor realizes the snake was literally using healing magic, which is why Raina is completely unharmed. But because royal pride is on the line, the emperor stubbornly orders the Brandts locked up for investigation anyway. Raina snaps out of her daze and panics, knowing if a leaner is arrested, her mother's dark secret is at risk, so she desperately yells that she's totally fine. But when she turns around, the empress and the sorcerer are towering over her with absolutely demonic glares. The crowd gets restless, with nobles loudly shouting for the Brandt family to be thrown out. High above the castle in a hot air balloon, Ellie's squad watches the chaos, noting that she's about to get herself killed. The guy with the goatee sighs, mentioning that she really put them in a tight spot as he reaches into a canvas bag. Yawning like he's completely bored, he pulls out a detonator and slams the button, joking about who's gonna pay them if she dies. A massive explosion suddenly shakes the ground, and Ellie instantly realizes her team made their move. The entire gala erupts into total panic as guards scramble to figure out what just blew up. Nobles stampede toward the exits, terrified that they're suddenly in the middle of a war zone. But as the smoke clears, a massive, crackling sphere of purple dark magic appears hovering right in the middle of the hall. People whisper in fear, wondering if it's a ghost or a mummy, but Princess Raina quickly realizes it's a person. Crying out for her mom, the little princess absolutely sprints toward the terrifying magical orb. The current empress frantically chases after her, screaming that it's way too dangerous. Safely shielded by her dad, Ellie realizes her wild master plan just got fast-tracked. Raina is absolutely bawling, desperately reaching out for her true mother. The current empress completely loses her composure, her face twisting into pure panic. She violently grabs Raina, trying to drag the crying girl away from the anomaly. But a disembodied voice echoes through the room, declaring it's time to end this hell as the magic barrier begins to crack. The dark sphere shatters into a blinding burst of light. A gentle voice wishes Raina a happy birthday, and the princess smiles brightly through her tears. The light fades to reveal the late empress's preserved body, totally exposing the current empress and the archduke's twisted cover-up. The emperor just stares, utterly paralyzed by the impossible sight. Ellie watches coldly, knowing this revelation completely broke his reality. The emperor is left speechless as the one thing he never expected plays out right in front of him. Shaking, he asks who could have done something so horrible to his late wife. Raina reaches out to the spirit of her real mother, tears streaming down her face. The current empress is literally trembling, realizing her entire world is collapsing around her. The illusion is completely shattered, and everyone finally realizes she is not Raina's true mother. Trying to save her own skin, the fake empress desperately claims this is just a cruel prank preying on the princess's grief. She grits her teeth, aggressively trying to force Raina back to her side. But Ellie just smirks, remembering how she rigged the magic item to activate the exact second Raina touched her real mother. Suddenly, another massive shockwave of golden magic absolutely blasts through the room. The fake empress clutches her chest, screaming to the emperor that this is obviously a trap. She pleads her case, reminding him that she raised Raina and dead people can't just come back to life. The creepy sorcerer steps in, backing her up and swearing the body is just a magical fake. He tries to manipulate the emperor, reminding him that he personally witnessed his late wife's final moments. A flashback shows the emperor's fondest memories of the late empress, Winore, and her beautiful eyes. He remembers giving her a special jewel that perfectly matched the color of their daughter's eyes. He was completely devoted to her, wanting to mark how important their family was. The memory shows him warmly presenting the gift to her in the sunlit courtyard. Winore holds the jewel, looking absolutely stunning and deeply touched. But reality snaps back to the sorcerer, who secretly used Winore's corpse as his own twisted test subject for dark magic. The sorcerer desperately begs the emperor for permission to destroy the body, promising to hunt down the culprit himself. But the emperor absolutely snaps, telling him to shut up and screaming for the guards to arrest the sorcerer and the fake empress instead. The royal guards instantly box the sorcerer in, cutting off his escape. The emperor orders his men to give Winore's body the utmost medical care from this point forward. The sorcerer begs for his life, swearing he's completely innocent as the heavy spears inch closer. Ignoring the desperate pleas, the emperor fiercely turns his back and walks away. Ellie watches them fall, satisfied that getting exposed in front of the entire nobility means there's zero chance of escape. The fake empress desperately tries to chase after the emperor, begging him to listen to her. But the guards completely shut her down as the emperor leaves her in the dust. With their dark secrets totally dragged into the light, it's pretty clear these traitors are getting a one-way ticket to the guillotine. Princess Reina kneels beside the preserved body, crying to the emperor that her real mom won't speak. The emperor drops to his knees, gently calling out his daughter's name as the tragic reality sets in. Suddenly, the creepy sorcerer absolutely books it, making a desperate dash for the exit. Ellie watches him flee, noting that since he's completely cornered, he's throwing caution out the window and openly using dark magic. But she isn't sweating it. She mentally reveals that he won't be able to lay a finger on Reina. She explains that the secret medicine she slipped the princess earlier was actually loaded with Stackhouse's high-level protection magic. Safely held in her dad's arms, Ellie casually complains about the lingering stink of the spells. Out of nowhere, an invisible force absolutely flattens the fleeing sorcerer face first into the pavement. Seeing her opening, Ellie furiously wriggles out of her dad's grip, demanding to be put down right now. The sorcerer struggles against the invisible pressure, realizing even his magical artifacts can't counter this insane power. Desperate, he lunges straight for the emperor, screaming at his shadowy goons to kill the royal and erase his memories. But Ellie isn't about to let that slide. She whips out a glowing magical orb, refusing to let him get away. Her brothers watch in total confusion, wondering when their dad bought her a magical wand. They decide to just sit back and watch the chaos unfold. Ellie unleashes a massive, crackling beam of blue lightning straight at the traitor. Without even chanting, the sorcerer instantly fires back with a deadly wave of purple dark magic. The two blasts violently collide in midair, and the sheer force starts cracking Ellie's mana stone. Realizing the little girl is his actual threat, the sorcerer chucks a concentrated orb of dark energy right at her face. Before it hits, Duke Brant steps up and absolutely obliterates the attack with a terrifying blast of red magic. Ellie's squad instantly tenses up, realizing this situation is spiraling way out of control. The Duke's power is so destructive it completely shreds the courtyard, carving a massive trench through the stone floor. Just then, a towering Templar knight drops from the sky, claiming he felt a massive surge of demonic energy. Ellie gasps, totally caught off guard by the sudden holy intervention. She realizes the elite forces of the Holy Nation have officially entered the chat. The Emperor stands there sweating, completely lost in the magical crossfire. An entire platoon of heavily armored Templars marches down the destroyed courtyard to launch a full investigation. The nobles start panicking, terrified that literal demons have infiltrated the palace. The knights begin their inspection, and Ellie sweats bullets, terrified her dad's forbidden magic is about to be exposed. A knight uses a glowing blue spell to scan the Duke, but shockingly declares he's just a regular human with zero abnormal energy. Ellie is stunned, realizing they're actually covering for him. She quickly notices the nobles look totally dazed and figures out the knights are actively wiping their memories of the magical clash. She recognizes this memory-altering trick immediately. It's a high-cost technique used by weakened devils to disguise themselves among humans. It's a spell so taxing that even the Demon King hesitates to use it. She narrows her eyes, wondering why these supposedly holy knights are secretly using demon-level magic. It finally clicks why her father is so ridiculously paranoid about the Holy Nation's true motives. Duke Brant quietly hushes his team, telling them they need to move out before they attract more attention. He smiles, confirming they have a brand new, highly dangerous target to investigate. The knights agree to take the sorcerer and the late empress's body back to the Holy Nation to look for demon connections. But Princess Reina suddenly breaks away, yelling for them to stop. She desperately begs the Templar knights to use their divine healing abilities to save her mother. The knight coldly shuts her down, stating their holy protection powers don't work like that and they cannot heal the dead. Ellie watches the princess completely break down in tears. She realizes the poor girl only went along with the sorcerer's mind control because she was promised a magical cure for her mom. Reina wails uncontrollably, begging her mother to just say something. The Emperor grabs his sobbing daughter, holding her tight in a heartbreaking embrace. Theo watches the tragedy unfold, looking completely torn as the princess cries for a miracle. Suddenly, the golden snake in his hands flashes its eyes and speaks directly into his mind. It calmly tells Theo that it can actually help her, leaving the boy totally stunned. Theo confidently relays to the Emperor that he can indeed save Her Highness's mother. Reina jolts up in absolute shock, realizing the golden snake actually has healing powers. Without a second thought, Reina violently dashes across the courtyard, carrying her mother's body in her arms. Sprinting toward Theo, she desperately begs him to help her. The golden snake just shakes slightly, throwing major shade and calling her a pig in its mind. The snake then glares at the Emperor, essentially asking if he's planning to yeet it across the room again. The Emperor nervously questions the snake's healing abilities, totally offending the creature, but Reina insists her dad needs to trust it. Reina passionately points out that the snake bit her earlier, and she doesn't have a single scratch on her body. She reveals that the bite actually completely healed her old injuries. The Emperor's eyes go wide as he realizes she's telling the absolute truth. He pieces the entire puzzle together, realizing Duke Brant's squad was totally innocent, and the snake was just trying to help. Swallowing his pride, he gives Theo the green light to try the healing magic. The snake absolutely fumes, hissing in anger and vowing to make the Emperor regret doubting its skills. Ellie watches anxiously, knowing that even elite holy magic couldn't completely fix this mess. The snake slithers over and bites the late Empress's glowing body, unleashing a massive wave of dark magic. Reina watches in total suspense, her breath caught in her throat. Ellie realizes her family caught this specific snake for a very good reason. It turns out this little guy really is a completely one-of-a-kind magical beast. Meanwhile, Duke Brant checks on his squad to make sure everyone is all right after the chaotic battle. Ellie quietly suggests they should bounce before things get even messier. She feels a pang of guilt, knowing her dad had to reveal his forbidden magic just to protect her. He literally had to flex his insane, destructive power right in front of the entire imperial court. She wonders how she's going to navigate the massive fallout from this reveal. She nervously watches her dad's back, trying to guess what's going through his head. She seriously debates if she needs to run away, since an entire dark faction has a massive bounty on his head. But then she remembers that they didn't execute her right away. The Emperor suddenly calls out Duke Brant's name, interrupting her spiraling thoughts. The Emperor, standing happily with his fully revived wife and daughter, asks if there is anything the Duke desires as a reward. Ellie's eyes immediately light up. She knows the perfect piece of land to claim as repayment. Suddenly, the Empress calls out to Ellie, lifting her heavy gown to step forward. The revived Empress gives Ellie the warmest smile, thanking her from the bottom of her heart. But out of absolutely nowhere, the blue mana stone in Ellie's hand hatches, and something violently smacks her right in the face. Reina totally freaks out, asking if Ellie is okay while the little noble stumbles backward. Ellie rubs her face, assuring everyone she's fine, while a tiny peep comes from the cracked shell on the ground. Ellie gasps, her eyes sparkling with pure excitement as she realizes her ultimate pet has finally arrived in the world. The legendary immortal dragon is officially born. Ellie quickly shushes the little creature, trying to keep its existence on the down low. But the tiny, adorable blue dragon just stares up at her with giant eyes, peeping cutely. It completely ignores her, aggressively peeping like a broken squeaky toy while the adults just stare in absolute confusion. Ellie mentally panics, realizing this noisy little guy is going to drive her completely insane. She wonders what on earth she's supposed to do next, while a dark crow watches her carriage roll away. The crow's glowing purple eyes narrow, sensing that the Demon King's power is involved. The dark entity realizes the Demon King has significantly weakened, while Duke Brant rides in the carriage, his eyes completely shadowed. Suddenly, a massive nightmare sequence starts. A volcano violently erupts, sending a tidal wave of fire straight into a screaming town. In the nightmare, Ellie stands in the blazing ruins, completely devastated that she couldn't stop the world from ending. She screams in absolute agony as the town burns to the ground around her. Clenching her fists, she refuses to accept this fate, but suddenly Reina appears in the flames with a creepy grin and a dagger. Ellie gasps and jolts awake in her bed, sweating bullets and breathing heavily. Realizing it was just a horrible nightmare, she tries to calm her racing heart while petting her tiny dragon. She mentally notes that it's already been a full week since her little immortal dragon hatched, but the stress is definitely getting to her. Ellie gently strokes her tiny immortal dragon, Sinustri, who happily peeps and wags its tail. Sitting in her massive, quiet bedroom, she reflects on how much crazy stuff has happened since that chaotic birthday party. She reads a newspaper article exposing the massive scandal that completely crumbled the imperial authority. She realizes the entire country has been nonstop gossiping about the royal drama. The papers reveal that the creepy sorcerer was actually possessed by demons and spent 5 years researching dark magic using a concubine as a lab rat. To make things worse, the fake empress and Archduke Howland were completely exposed for their secret partnership. The Archduke desperately throws the empress under the bus to save his own skin. The investigation fully uncovered that they were supplying the ingredients for the dark magic, dragging all their other crimes into the light. Ellie flips the page, knowing exactly how the emperor reacted to this ultimate betrayal. The enraged emperor absolutely didn't hesitate, immediately sending both traitors straight to the guillotine to be executed. The news also states the emperor is aggressively hunting for the source of the leaked surveillance video that exposed the palace's dirty secrets. But Ellie just smirks, knowing the video was secretly recorded over the palace's own magic barrier. As soon as the barrier shattered during the fight, her magical recording completely vanished, leaving zero physical evidence behind. She admits she leaked the footage to make sure the criminals couldn't use the Imperial Palace as their personal playground ever again. She hopes this massive reality check gives the Emperor some clarity, so Princess Raina is finally free from the fake Empress's horrific abuse. But while she's busy plotting, her tiny dragon keeps aggressively peeping and wagging its tail, totally distracting her. Out of nowhere, the hyperactive little beast leaps onto her desk and completely knocks over a framed picture. Ellie panics, scrambling to pick up the shattered glass before her dad finds out. But as she cleans up, she realizes her dad hasn't actually checked on her even once since they got back from the palace. She stares blankly at her bedroom door, feeling completely isolated. Usually, he's constantly barging in to check on her, making a huge fuss and treating her like a total princess. She wonders if he's suddenly keeping his distance because he had to use his forbidden magic to save her. She starts overthinking, wondering if he actually considers her a threat now. But that logic totally falls apart since he's the one who saved her in the first place. Looking at the old picture of her dad holding her, she questions what his real master plan is. Exhausted from the mental gymnastics, she completely flops back onto her bed. Snuggling her tiny dragon, she decides that at least one thing is totally clear. With cold determination, she states that she successfully fixed the ultimate cause of the world's destruction. But she mentally promises that if the Emperor ever threatens her family again, she won't hold back next time. Suddenly, someone knocks on her door. Theo peeks in, politely bowing and asking if she's all right since she's been hiding in her room. Ellie plays it cool, claiming she just needed rest after the absolutely chaotic events at the palace, plus she doesn't want to draw attention by strutting around the manor. She looks at Theo, deeply wondering what would happen to him if she decided to just pack up and leave the manor entirely. Her dragon suddenly peeps loudly and Theo translates, telling her the dragon wants her to cheer up. Ellie is totally amazed, realizing she definitely needs Theo around just to understand her own pet's language. She debates telling him her true identity as Bliss, but instantly realizes he'd probably think she was completely insane. Still, she wonders if Theo is loyal enough to follow her if she runs away, even without knowing her full backstory. The dragon keeps peeping and wagging its tail, completely oblivious to the heavy mood. Ellie realizes the real problem isn't leaving, it's what happens next. If she asks Theo to run away with her, she's essentially forcing him to betray her dad, Lucas. She wonders if she's even strong enough to protect Theo from her family's elite assassins. Suddenly, the dragon springs up on her head. Ellie smiles, thanking the little guy for cheering her up, realizing dragons are way more emotionally tuned in than she thought. She decides it's time to stop overthinking and suggests they finally leave the room to get some fresh air. She opens the door but instantly freezes, her eyes widening in pure shock. The rest of her elite squad is literally standing right outside her door, totally jump-scaring her. They're casually discussing locking her up so she can't leave the manor. One of them bluntly calls the other an idiot for even suggesting that. He points out that Ellie is more than capable of using strong mana to easily break out. They confidently state that even though their master isn't at full strength right now, he can still easily handle Ellie if she tries to escape. Ellie goes absolutely pale, completely terrified by how easily they read her mind. Theo just stands there awkwardly as Ellie stares silently at the ground. Realizing she's completely trapped, she quietly steps past the broken picture frame on the floor. Looking out the sunlit window, she suddenly turns to Theo and casually drops an absolute bombshell, asking him if he wants to run away with her. Theo is completely caught off guard, asking Ellie what she means by running away. Ellie quickly covers her tracks, awkwardly claiming she was just kidding since she knows it would be too difficult. She internally monologues that she has absolutely no way to explain the truth to him, so if she gets caught and killed, she wants to face it alone. Changing the subject, she cheerfully suggests they just grab some sherbet instead of going for a walk. Theo totally buys the distraction, happy to get her the treat she loves. He warns her it might take a little while to prepare, and she smiles, gently holding her peeping dragon. Theo bows respectfully, promising to bring it straight to her room as soon as it's ready. The second he turns his back, Ellie taps her foot, immediately activating her magic. With a glowing blue aura surrounding her, she mentally thanks Theo for everything he's done. She tells herself not to look back. But suddenly, a massive pulse of dark purple magic explodes behind her, making her flinch. The tiny dragon completely freaks out, peeping wildly. A menacing voice echoes through the air, specifically calling out the daughter of Lucas, as Ellie's eye glows with intense mana. The shockwave literally sends the tiny dragon tumbling across the stone floor. An absolutely massive, shadowy figure descends from the sky, dramatically calling her name. It's a demon with glowing purple eyes, and he looks totally unhinged as Ellie stares back in shock. A maid screams for her lady as Duke Brant suddenly materializes right behind the terrified servant. The flashback reveals the horrifying moment the dark portal fully opened, swallowing Ellie in its sinister light. She looks around the void, completely disoriented and wondering where she was just dragged to. Creepy chuckling surrounds her as she stands alone in a bizarre, swirling dimension. A demon's voice mocks her, bragging about how easily they snatched her up. Ellie immediately recognizes the voice and smirks, boldly stating that it's been a long time. An entire army of nightmarish demons swarms the sky, but Ellie just stands there, totally unfazed and calling out her dad's name. Duke Brant Akalukas glares up at the demonic horde, his red eye glowing with pure murderous intent. The demon leader absolutely loses it, screaming that Lucas is a total traitor for abandoning the demon world. They surround him, furiously demanding to know why he chose to live among humans, declaring they're putting him on trial. The leader orders his army to completely annihilate him, while Lucas just stares them down, coldly asking what they think they're doing. He calmly orders them to stop their demon descending ritual right this second. But the demons just laugh, mocking him and asking if he's actually going to use his power. Meanwhile, Ellie casually charges up a sphere of dark magic in her hand. The demons snicker and cackle, threatening to just kill Ellie instead, completely underestimating her. Ellie mentally panics for a second, wondering why her elite squad isn't making a move. She realizes they totally set her up as bait, assuming she'd be an easy target for the demons. The Duke squad finally steps up, looking completely unbothered as they ask the demons what they actually want. With a terrifying, completely unhinged smile, Ellie answers for them. She wants them to die. Theo desperately sprints toward the chaos, screaming for his master. Ellie yells for him to stay back, totally panicking that he's running straight into a death trap. The demons aggressively taunt Lucas, mocking his weakened state and laughing at his touching devotion to humans. They boast that they'll grant the humans the ultimate honor of dying alongside their great king. One of the squad members casually orders everyone to take a step back. But another member stubbornly refuses, gripping her weapon tight. A massive guy steps in front of a blonde girl, cockily telling their master that he shouldn't waste his power on small fry. They're fully ready to annihilate the entire horde themselves. Ellie smirks, calling the demons absolute fools as her dark magic flares up. Meanwhile, Theo drops a tray of sherbet, completely frozen in shock. He stands there totally baffled, wondering what on earth is actually happening right now. He spots the tiny dragon shivering on the ground, calling out its name. The demons unleash a massive barrage of dark energy spheres straight at Ellie and the squad, trying to see how long they can hold out. Ellie screams for everyone to stay away, totally freaking out as the lethal attacks close in. The demons roar for Lucas to die, branding him the ultimate disgrace for betraying the demon world. But Lucas just stands there, totally stone-faced as the dark blasts literally explode right in front of him. The magic completely blasts the squad, sending intense sparks everywhere, while Ellie watches in total shock, wondering why they aren't even trying to fight back. One of the squad members quickly points out that just playing defense isn't going to end this fight. She mentally notes that it would be super easy to just wipe them all out, but they can't because the demon Kerha is using Ellie as a literal meat shield. She glances back at Lucas, explaining that it's highly dangerous for him to keep using his power in his current, weakened condition. So she makes a heavy decision, apologizing to Ellie under her breath. She realizes she has absolutely no choice. She has to attack Ellie in order to hit Kerha. Stepping up to the front, she coldly calls out Kerha's name, ready to throw down. Lucas steps out of the smoke, completely unfazed, and tells the demons that if it's him they're after, then they should come get him. The demons absolutely lose their minds, screaming at him for giving up his life for humans. They charge him with a massive blast of dark magic. The blonde squad member casually watches the chaos, stepping up next to her massive teammate. Suddenly, Ellie's body violently lunges forward, her eye glowing with dark purple energy, screaming that she's going to be the one to kill Lucas. The real Ellie is trapped inside her own mind, screaming for her dad to watch out. The brown-haired squad member instantly draws her blade, stating she has absolutely no other option. Ellie reaches out desperately as the squad member charges her. The warrior apologizes as she fiercely lunges straight at the possessed little girl. But Lucas's voice cuts through the chaos, sharply calling out a single name, Cowsteel. Instantly, the dark magic surrounding Ellie violently sparks and fizzles out, making her completely freeze in her tracks. The squad member smirks, pointing her glowing blade right at the demon's throat, asking if he forgot that he's way weaker than she is. With a vicious thrust, she literally stabs her magical blade straight through Ellie's chest. The squad watches in pure shock. But Lucas just stands there, an absolutely terrifying red aura exploding from his body, and commands his squad to step aside. The demon inside Ellie curses, realizing his hostage strategy is totally failing as a massive magic circle erupts beneath her feet. Inside the distortion, the tiny immortal dragon desperately peeps, trying to reach Ellie. Ellie looks back, realizing her pet and Theo are getting sucked into the magical crossfire. Theo is literally sprinting through the chaotic spell, screaming for his lady to break the barrier so she can escape. But the dimensional rip starts aggressively closing around her. The squad member yells for Ellie to regain control of her body. Theo dives forward, completely desperate to reach her as the dragon squeaks in panic. The demon Kerha spots the tiny blue dragon and totally loses his mind, realizing it's the legendary immortal dragon. Theo gasps as the demon's intense, murderous pressure suddenly locks onto them. The demon horde pauses, totally confused as they watch Kerha suddenly falter and stagger in Ellie's body. The squad watches the possessed girl drop to her knees, her heart violently thumping as she struggles to breathe. Kerha screams through Ellie's mouth, asking if she's really willing to give up her own life just to stop him. Ellie furiously fights back from the inside, her real eye violently slamming the demon's influence away as she orders him to get out of her body right now. A massive bolt of blue lightning absolutely shatters the dark magic, ripping the dimension apart. Ellie realizes the demon's consciousness is still aggressively clawing at her mind. She forces herself to stand, screaming at the demon to leave her alone while the horde watches in pure shock. But a massive, shadowy projection of the demon looms over her, stubbornly refusing to let go. Suddenly, Lucas steps into the spiritual plane, glowing with intense magical energy. Ellie's eye widens as she sees her dad absolutely dominating the demonic space. Lucas casually raises a massive sphere of dark magic, standing between Ellie and the shadowy demon. The demon leader screams at him, calling him crazy and warning him that using that much power will literally kill him, but Lucas coldly replies that it doesn't matter. As long as he gets to permanently erase him, Ellie watches, completely awestruck as blue lightning violently surges from her dad's attack. The demon curses his bad luck, realizing he could have easily killed Lucas if it weren't for this insane human standing in his way. Lucas's red eye glows with absolute cold-blooded murder. A massive blast of purple energy absolutely obliterates the courtyard, wiping out everything in its path as someone screams Ellie's name. Back in the void, Winore, the late empress, drops to her knees in front of a massive, glowing celestial gate. She looks confused, whispering that she was just somewhere else. A booming, godly voice echoes through the empty space, bluntly telling her that she died. She spins around, demanding to know who's speaking. The voice explains that he's actually resurrected her before, but her mortal mind just can't comprehend it. A massive, hazy, angelic figure slowly materializes behind her, leaving Winore completely stunned. Slowly realizing the absolute scale of the being in front of her, she whispers, asking if he must be. The massive entity simply replies, "God, that is what people call me," as his absolute divine presence completely floods the void. The red-haired woman furiously questions the mysterious entity, asking if they are the one who keeps resurrecting her. She glares ahead, but a booming voice warns her that time is officially running out. Two massive portals appear out of thin air, one glowing blue, the other pitch black, and she's ordered to choose her destination. She refuses to budge, demanding a proper explanation for this twisted game. Suddenly, a vision flashes before her eyes, showing a white-haired man clutching a lifeless girl in the pouring rain. Next, she sees a group of familiar men standing solemnly in the storm. She stares in confusion, wondering why these tough warriors look absolutely devastated. The vision shifts again, revealing a grand, glittering birthday party for a little girl named Ellie. Her eyes widen in shock as she realizes they were planning a celebration for her, just like they did in her past life. The entity's voice crackles through the air like static, warning that if she doesn't decide, fate will just take its natural course. She screams into the void, begging the god to make sense for once. Without warning, the space around her starts cracking like shattered glass. Another vision strikes. The white-haired man is now wrapped in a wild tornado of dark magic, begging Ellie to open her eyes. He completely loses his grip on reality, devastated by the belief that Alina is dead. The woman starts panicking, wondering if the entire world is about to go up in flames if she doesn't pick a door. She frantically questions the chaotic energy breaking down the room. Frustrated, she curses the god for not even letting her ask about her original body. The dark magic in the vision grows even more intense, threatening to wreck everything in its path. She hesitates, terrified of stepping into the unknown darkness. Doubt creeps in as she wonders if she'll be stuck in this new form forever. She realizes that living as Lucas's daughter has totally rewired her brain. Despite all the chaotic near-death experiences, her mind is flooded with nothing but warm, happy memories. With her heart set, the glowing portal flashes blindingly white, sealing her choice. Back in the real world, Lucas's eyes glow red as his destructive aura spirals wildly out of control. Suddenly, Ellie snaps awake. She screams at the top of her lungs, desperately begging him to stop. A frantic voice yells out that she shouldn't be moving, cutting straight through the chaos. Cut to the present, Ellie is resting in bed while her four chaotic guardians hover over her like worried mother hens. The blonde knight scolds her, reminding her the doctor ordered strict bed rest. Lucas immediately commands the others to hunt down the absolute healthiest food to help her recover. The trio enthusiastically agrees, ready to turn the kingdom upside down for their master. Ellie watches them go, completely mind-blown that she actually survived the ordeal. She recalls the terrifying moment Lucas lost control, thinking his dark magic was going to flat-out vaporize her. Lucas gently interrupts her thoughts, urging her not to bottle up her feelings. She nervously fidgets with her blanket, still not used to the Demon King acting like a giant softie. He leans in close, his face full of genuine concern as he asks what's bothering her. Ellie flinches back, stuttering that she's totally fine. Internally, she sweats bullets, realizing she needs to tread very carefully around him. She originally thought Reina was the walking time bomb meant to end the world. But a dark realization hits her. In this timeline, she is the trigger. A memory of Lucas holding her protectively flashes in her mind, proving just how much he values her. The rest of the guys wave goodbye, dramatically begging her not to miss them too much. Left alone in bed, Ellie takes a deep breath, determined to get her life together before things go south. A soft knock interrupts her thoughts as someone announces that her meal is ready. The doors open to her massive, luxurious bedroom. A nervous maid steps inside carrying a steaming tray of food, politely asking how she feels. Ellie flashes a soft smile, assuring the maid that she's doing fine and not to worry. She tries to sit up, admitting it feels super weird to be pampered all day without lifting a finger. She remembers when she first arrived at the manor and got tossed around in the air like a literal ragdoll. The maid offers the tray, but Lucas suddenly steps in, ordering her to blow on the hot soup to cool it down. Before Ellie can even process it, Lucas sits by her side and gently grabs her hand, insisting she needs to eat first. Lucas practically sparkles as he presents Ellie with a meal, bragging about the high-quality ingredients, but she's definitely not feeling it. He insists she has to eat well to recover properly. But when she looks in the bowl, it's a bubbling neon green sludge that looks straight up radioactive. Lucas completely misses the point, claiming he packed it with healthy stuff to help her heal. Ellie stares in absolute horror, wondering why it looks so disgusting while he casually tells her to open wide. She yells in protest, but Lucas just scolds her for being a picky eater. She screams back that this has absolutely nothing to do with being picky, it looks like literal poison. Meanwhile, the blonde knight and dark-haired kid Theo are having a gloomy pity party, feeling totally unqualified. Theo thinks back to the moment Lady Alina saved his life. Cut back to Lucas trying to spoon-feed a trembling Ellie the toxic soup. Theo's internal guilt continues, agonizing over how he failed to repay her kindness. A gritty flashback shows Ellie covered in blood, proving he couldn't even protect his master when it mattered. In another memory, a brown-haired woman bluntly tells Theo he's only around because Ellie likes him, so he better start being useful. The blonde knight even jokes about feeding the weak kid to the goblins, totally shocking Ellie. Theo realizes he's done nothing but take from her without ever giving back. He clenches his fists, resolving to grind hard and finally become stronger. Back in the bedroom, Ellie is desperate to dodge the toxic soup and frantically tries to change the subject. She suddenly asks Lucas what he was being so secretive about earlier, causing him to freeze completely. He stammers, caught totally off guard by the question. Ellie awkwardly notes how random his reaction is. Lucas confesses he was preparing presents for the princess's birthday, but realized he hadn't done the same for his own daughter. He looks downcast, admitting he didn't even know her real birthday, which makes Ellie realize she doesn't know it either. Dejected, he explains he was just trying to commemorate the day she first arrived at the manor. Ellie bites her lip, completely taken aback by his genuine efforts. She wonders why he's being so incredibly nice and gently tells him there's no need to apologize. A flood of memories washes over her, reminding her of all the times she doubted him. She admits she was absolutely positive he was going to kill her one day. For the longest time, she truly believed he was the ultimate enemy. Suddenly, a tiny white dragon-like creature pops out from the blankets with a cute little squeak. Lucas pauses, glancing down at the unexpected noise. Seeing Ellie look emotional, Lucas totally panics, thinking she's crying and immediately blames himself. He gets completely flustered, offering to redo everything from scratch. But Ellie just gives him a warm smile, thanking him and saying it's the thought that counts. Fired up, Lucas boldly declares he's going to throw her a massive party every single year, even as she tries to decline. His expression softens, and he tells her how delighted he was when she gave him a gift. Ellie is completely lost, pointing out that he's always the one showering her with stuff. She stares at him blankly, totally drawing a blank on what he's talking about. Lucas pulls out a glowing crystal with a flower inside, and Ellie is absolutely shook that he carries it around everywhere. Cringing hard, she begs him to throw the cheap trinket away so she can get him something way better. But Lucas bluntly refuses, holding onto it like it's the greatest treasure in the world. The scene shifts to a dark, intense interrogation where the brown-haired woman demands to know where Kerha is. Her captive points out that they already killed him, all while surrounded by floating bodies suspended in dark magic. She sighs, completely annoyed that these goons are still protecting the guy who used them. A dark-haired man steps up, his purple eyes glowing as he mocks their absolute lack of critical thinking skills. The woman casually agrees that their blind loyalty only makes sense for people this stupid. She steps forward into the shadows, muttering about how frustrating this whole mess is. But her eyes gleam red as she vows to get the bloody job done properly. A sudden message from the studio pops up, thanking everyone for a successful season 1. The story circles back to the wild demonic ritual at the mansion, showing Ellie engulfed in chaotic magic. The final panel shows her standing before the massive glowing portal, officially sealing her choice to stay in this crazy world. The narrator reveals she has finally accepted her new reality. She is officially Lucas's true daughter. Looking like an absolute princess in her blue dress, Alina realizes a massive burden. If anything happens to her, the entire world goes up in flames. Sweating bullets over accidentally becoming the ultimate trigger for the apocalypse, she starts living her life super cautiously. Although her new life is a massive upgrade from her miserable past, she admits things still get a little awkward sometimes. But along with her drive to grow stronger and protect herself, she discovers the world isn't as scary as she once thought. Actually, she finds herself surrounded by countless beautiful, bright moments. She smiles radiantly, realizing she's been welcomed with open arms time and time again. As the seasons fly by and her time at the manor increases, she fully grows into her new identity. Instead of being called Bliss, the name Alina finally feels like her true self. In the grand hall, she softly calls out to Lucas. He turns around, flashing a warm, gentle smile that totally melts away his cold exterior. Since her first real birthday celebration, their dynamic has completely shifted. She realizes she has genuinely accepted Lucas as her real father. Thinking back to the day she collapsed and he stayed right by her side to nurse her, she just couldn't reject his warmth anymore. Because of that deep love, the entire purpose of her second life has changed. She wonders why Lucas and his legendary dark sea swords are still chilling in the human realm, despite being powerful enough to casually wreck the world. She questions what exactly drives him to play the role of a human duke, even leaving his demonic homeland completely behind. Snapping back to reality, she casually asks where he's heading, and he mentions going to watch the kids at the training ground. But the moment she playfully asks if he's going to see his friends, Behan's disciples, Lucas physically flinches like he just took emotional damage. He glares into the void, bluntly stating that things are totally boring without Theo around. It turns out Theo isn't at the mansion anymore, since the Dark Sea Swords are absolutely clueless about taming magic. Lucas decided to pack Theo's bags and send him straight to the magic tower. This massive, glowing tower is the ultimate hub where the most promising wizards in the world gather to master their skills. And judging by his clenched fist, Theo was fully locked in and ready for the challenge. Honestly, Alina wasn't exactly thrilled to see him leave, even telling him he didn't have to go. Theo admits he desperately wants to stay by her side and guard her like always. But he drops a hard truth. With his current skills, he's basically dead weight and can't protect her from real danger. He confesses that if she were to fall into danger again and he couldn't do anything to stop it, he would never be able to forgive himself. Alina looks on, completely heartbroken by his words. Theo drops to one knee, deeply thanking her and the Duke for bringing a former barbarian this far. Swearing his loyalty, he promises to return ridiculously overpowered to properly repay them both. Fighting back tears, Alina gives him a warm smile and officially gives him her blessing. Fast forward and Theo is absolutely grinding at the tower, summoning massive glowing spirit beasts and leveling up like crazy. The resident wizards watch him in absolute shock, totally sweating his monstrous growth rate and plotting to keep him there permanently. Back at the manor, Alina smirks, knowing that if the tower actually steals him, she'll be in deep trouble. After all, Theo is one of the few people she genuinely trusts, but then she catches Lucas standing in the shadows looking like a kicked puppy. Alina completely side-eyes him, wondering why the big bad demon king is making such a pathetic, affectionate face. He suddenly gets up in her personal space, intensely interrogating her about exchanging letters with Theo and asking if she really misses him that much. Alina starts sweating, realizing that if he keeps acting like a wildly jealous dad, she won't be able to dodge his questions. Panicking, she literally zooms out of the room like a cartoon character, yelling a quick goodbye as Lucas desperately reaches out for her. Left behind, Lucas looks absolutely devastated, dramatically whispering her name. The mighty Demon King drops to his knees in pure despair, having a full-blown crisis thinking she's going to get married and leave him forever. Strutting down the hallway, Alina rolls her eyes, wondering when he's going to stop acting so dramatic and realize she's not a little kid anymore. Every time she sees Lucas's insane, over-the-top obsession with her. She looks at the family portraits on the wall and realizes just how much this once doomed world has completely shifted. It's not just Lucas and his squad of deadly swordsmen who have changed for the better. Theo is out there having a major glow-up, growing as a brilliant magician instead of just a raw knight. Because of all these beautiful changes, the original terrifying scenario where the world gets completely annihilated has straight up vanished. The wicked empress was finally executed by guillotine for her crimes, and the city that was destined to turn to ash has officially been saved. As she looks out over the courtyard, Ellie reflects that her actions are completely rewriting the future she once knew. She wonders why the city originally fell into ruin, realizing she totally ignored it in her past life, when a voice suddenly calls out to her. It's Alex, the young knight enthusiastically greets her, looking way older and significantly more handsome. He confidently flexes his major glow-up, and Ellie points out that his flashy personality is becoming exactly like his master, Behans. She jokingly doubts if he's even a real disciple, while Alex eagerly offers to show off his swordsmanship. Ellie totally shuts him down, waving him off and telling him to just focus on his training. He just laughs, teasing her right back that she's already training super hard herself. She smiles softly, thinking that minor tweaks to the timeline aren't a big deal. The real danger is if those tiny ripples turn into massive, destructive waves that come crashing back. Dipping her toe in the water, she acknowledges that nothing catastrophic has happened just yet. But she worries that if a huge event does trigger in the future, she might not have the power to stop it. She stares at Alex intensely, a serious realization hitting her. She knows she has to save someone's life, and that someone is him. Alex gets completely flustered, nervously asking why she's staring at him like that. A flashback reveals that during her past life as Bliss, she investigated Behan's background and uncovered his deepest secrets. She found out that Alex was Behan's absolute most cherished disciple. At the time, she coldly planned to use the boy as leverage against Behan. But when she learned Alex was destined to be brutally killed by demons, she completely dropped the idea. Watching his file burn to ash in her memory, she decided exploiting his tragic fate just wasn't worth it. Back in the present, Ellie looks up at the grown-up Alex with soft eyes. She realizes this bright, loyal knight has genuinely become someone precious to her. Clenching her dress, she vows that she absolutely refuses to lose anyone else. Alex interrupts her thoughts, noting she's acting super strange and staring off into space. Internally, Ellie is panicking. She knows he dies this year but doesn't know when, so she's been literally stalking him day and night to keep him safe. Realizing she can't physically trail him forever, she casually considers casting a creepy surveillance spell on him, making Alex violently flinch. Snapping out of it, she demands to know what's wrong with him. In a moment of pure delusion, Alex dramatically claims she's staring because she has a massive crush on his handsome face. Ellie looks absolutely utterly disgusted, but Alex blames the dorm kids for starting the rumor. He insists everyone thinks she visits so much because he's becoming a total heartthrob. He dramatically flashes his back, bragging that girls only talk about his body now, leaving Ellie mortified. She completely loses it and yeets him away, screaming that he's completely wrong. Unbothered, Alex squishes her cheeks, teasing that she still looks incredibly worried about something. His tone softens as he gently asks if something bad happened. Ellie quickly brushes it off, realizing this annoying brat has actually grown up a lot. As she walks away, Alex yells that if she does like him, he really doesn't want to get murdered by the overprotective Duke. Sitting alone on a bench, Ellie sighs, frustrated that no one understands what's actually at stake. She watches Alex train from afar, her resolve hardening. She decides that saving his life is an absolute must, even if it totally wrecks the timeline. She simply refuses to lose another precious friend to this cruel world. But to pull that off, she desperately needs to level up her own strength. She violently shakes her head, totally blaming someone else for her current weakness. A flashback shows Lucas acting like the ultimate helicopter dad, hovering menacingly over her so she can't even lift a wooden stick. Instead of letting her train, he forces her into bed and spoon-feeds her massive sundaes to fatten her up. Thanks to him, she's completely lost all her muscle memory for sword fighting. Back in the present, she complains to Kun that Lucas's underlings constantly sabotage her secret training. Kun just smiles warmly, amused that she's so interested in getting stronger. He playfully offers her a piece of chocolate, asking if she likes training more than sweets, which makes her pout and ask if he thinks she's a toddler. But despite her tough talk, she immediately accepts the treat. Chewing happily, she admits she's just totally frustrated with her overbearing dad. Kun smiles gently, telling Ellie that it would be nice to get stronger by training. But she really doesn't need to struggle so much. He explains that Lucas just wants her to be happy and absolutely safe in a secure place. He playfully pokes her cheek, basically telling her to just sit pretty and act like a cute little mascot. But Ellie firmly rejects the idea, knowing she can't just coast through life like this. She realizes that if she stays completely sheltered behind her dad's protection, she'll always be a weak, immature burden. Looking Kun dead in the eye, she declares she absolutely can't stand that. She tells him that without her own strength, she won't be able to protect the people she actually cares about. Kun looks like he just witnessed a miracle, absolutely speechless at her maturity. He softly admits that both he and Ellie have changed a lot over the years. Suddenly, he completely breaks character, pulling out a glowing recording crystal like a proud stage mom. Ellie blushes furiously, threatening to smash the orb into pieces. Kun just laughs it off, casually putting the crystal away. He admits he originally thought it was fine for her to just fool around and live a carefree life. But since she's so serious about growing, he promises to personally design the perfect training curriculum for her. He slams his hands on the desk, totally shifting into strict boss mode. Cut to the next scene, Kun is standing at the head of a massive table for Ellie's education advisory meeting with Lucas and the boys. Lucas looks up, pleasantly surprised by the sudden gathering. He smiles, genuinely touched that Ellie wants to better herself instead of just actively seeking out danger. Meanwhile, the two red-haired brothers pop up wearing goofy reading glasses, trying way too hard to look smart for the occasion. Acting like a strict professor, Kun announces he'll be teaching Ellie the subjects she needs most. Ellie sweats nervously, realizing Kun is basically the only one in this group of fools with an actual functioning brain. Kun points a finger at the room, asking them to guess what she needs to learn first. Someone suggests sword fighting, but Kun confidently declares etiquette. Ellie's brain straight up short circuits, completely dumbfounded by his answer. A little pop-up reminds viewers what a true princess must be taught. Kun adjusts his glasses like an anime villain, doubling down that high society etiquette is the absolute top priority. Ellie frantically points out that she's always hanging around the swordsmanship training room, hinting she obviously wants to fight. But Kun totally ignores her, holding up his hand to politely shut her down. Ellie gets totally riled up, demanding to know why he's acting so suspiciously smug. Kun gives her a thumbs up, claiming his time at the manor has made him an expert on what young ladies need. Ellie stares at him with dead eyes, basically asking if he's calling her a completely uncultured savage. Kun then asks the room if anyone knows Ellie's exact age. One of the redheads guesses 5. Lucas immediately chimes in, calling the guard a total disgrace for getting it wrong. The Demon King then casually flexes by rattling off the exact days, hours, minutes, and seconds she's been alive. Ellie cringes hard, asking why he memorized that like a total creep. Kun completely ignores the weirdness, confirming it's been exactly 14 years since she joined them. He explains that she's officially at the age to prepare for her coming-of-age ceremony. The red-haired brothers bicker, realizing this is a massive, once-in-a-lifetime event. Kun dramatically highlights that this ceremony will be Ellie's official debut as a noble adult. Countless powerful families will attend, meaning Ellie will have to navigate the social scene and create her own allies. He emphasizes that to pull this off, she needs flawless manners and elegant speech to impress the elites. But Kun quickly realizes he's talking to a brick wall. Everyone else at the table is completely ignoring the concept of courtesy. One of the guards rudely interrupts him, proving they literally have zero manners to their core. Kun completely loses his mind. yelling at the group and asking how Ellie is supposed to learn culture in this absolute circus of an environment. Ellie holds up her hand, desperately trying to stop the madness. Kun assures her they'll just hire the greatest etiquette teacher in the land. But Ellie bluntly asks why they even need to have a coming-of-age ceremony in the first place. Kun is totally flabbergasted, looking at her like she grew a second head. Ellie waves her hands, desperately trying to explain her logic. She points out that her father's legendary name is already enough to carry her fame, so she doesn't actually need to actively seek out allies. Sweating nervously, she argues that she simply doesn't have the time to waste on high society speaking skills when she needs to focus on real survival. Ellie realizes her past knowledge as the villainous Bliss is totally useless now. A flashback shows her past self, proving that her old ruthless tactics won't help her survive this new life. Kun steps in, gently telling her that he wants her to learn completely new skills to thrive. He insists that mastering things beyond just magic or swordsmanship will give her true strength. He paints a picture of high society, explaining that mastering speech and dignity will literally have people eating out of the palm of her hand. He emphasizes that social etiquette is basically a weapon if used correctly. Kun confidently adds that there will absolutely be a time and place where she'll need these skills. He hits her with a compromise, suggesting she at least try it out before completely rage quitting. Ellie finally caves with a defeated sigh, and Kun hits her with a victorious smile. But she immediately complains about absolutely hating studying. She practically begs to learn swordsmanship instead, arguing that she despises people who talk a big game but have weak bodies. Lucas steps in, calmly agreeing to her terms. The blonde knight adds that she can learn the sword, but only after finishing her boring liberal arts classes. Lucas raises an eyebrow, asking if she can really handle the grueling physical training. Ellie confidently smirks, bragging that as the Demon King's daughter, she's about to absolutely blow their minds. Kun happily claps his hands, glad they reached a deal, and heads off to fetch the etiquette teacher. But before he leaves, he ominously tells Ellie to prepare her heart, leaving her totally confused. He flashes a slightly unhinged smile, mentioning how parents always want the absolute best for their kids. Kun declares that right now, he is dangerously passionate about her education. A dark shadow drops over Kun's face as he vows to turn her into the absolute best woman in the entire world. Ellie and the guard sweat drop, completely intimidated by Kun's sudden boss energy. She nervously stammers that she'll try her best while staring up at the massive estate. Later, Kun meets with Lucas in his grand office, relieved that Ellie actually listened to reason. Lucas sighs, admitting he didn't want to force her, but he would have made her learn it anyway. Kun assures him that Ellie is going to absolutely crush her lessons. He softly smiles, noting that the great Demon King has seriously gone soft. Ever since Ellie entered his life, Lucas has completely transformed. Lucas stares at his gloved hands, admitting that even he is shocked by the change. He confesses he never thought he could care about fragile mortals who barely live a century. But strangely enough, just looking at Ellie fills his cold heart with absolute warmth. A sweet flashback shows him gently holding tiny baby Ellie's hand. To him, she is the most delicate, precious, and irreplaceable creature in the world. While he desperately wants to keep her locked safely in his embrace forever, he knows human time passes by in the blink of an eye. He realizes he needs to teach her how to stand on her own 2 feet before it's too late. Lucas clenches his hands together, a heavy burden settling on his shoulders. The scene transitions, showing a beautiful vision of Ellie growing up into a young lady. Lucas repeats his ultimate goal, ensuring she can survive completely solo. The mood gets dark as he stews in his anxious thoughts. Kun interrupts the silence, calling out to his lord with a serious tone. He points out a grim reality: it's not a secret anymore, everyone knows Lucas has weakened. Lucas admits he hasn't been the same since burning his power to save Ellie. He stares at his trembling hand, fully aware that his invincibility is gone. He knows that by saving her, he basically broadcasted his biggest weakness to the world. And the villain Kerha is definitely smart enough to notice. Lucas stares out the window, anticipating that his enemies will try to assassinate him harder than ever. But even worse, this means Ellie will definitely be targeted and used against him again. Lucas furiously grips his armrest, terrified of her ending up in mortal danger like last time. With the enemies closing in, he knows his absolute top priority is making sure his daughter is strong enough to live her life and absolutely wreck anyone who steps to her. Lucas looks absolutely soul-crushed, realizing this whole process is basically preparing Ellie to leave the nest. Kun looks at his lord sympathetically, noting that Lucas must be super disappointed to see things changing so fast. But Kun quickly clarifies that it's not just Lucas feeling this way, he shares the exact same heavy heart. He gently reminds Lucas that he isn't the only one who has completely transformed. A montage shows Warren, Baba, Mike, and the rest of the crew looking happy and at peace. Kun explains that living with Ellie has unlocked a whole new spectrum of emotions for all of them. She isn't just the Lord's daughter anymore. To the entire household, Ellie has become their most precious treasure. Kun assures him that no matter what path Ellie chooses, the whole squad will back her up 100%. Ellie narrates that thanks to Kun's persuasive pep talk, her etiquette education officially gets the green light. She sits elegantly in the parlor, admitting that while she hates studying, it doesn't seem too terrible yet. The grand doors open, and Kun announces that her new instructor has finally arrived. Kun escorts a very poised woman into the room to take charge of the princess. Meet Lady Anne Nevada. She smiles warmly, introducing herself, and Ellie is instantly starstruck by how gorgeous she is. Ellie is totally baffled, wondering how a beauty this legendary wasn't famously known in her past life. She gives Kun serious side-eye, asking where on earth he found someone this pretty and joking if he hired her strictly based on her face. Kun flexes Nevada's resume, revealing she graduated at the very top of her academy class with a major in music. Sweating slightly under the pressure, Ellie humbly asks the elite teacher to take good care of her. Suddenly, Lucas is shown crying literal comic tears, absolutely wrecked by the awkwardness of his daughter growing up. Ellie gets a quick flashback to her gritty past life, remembering when she desperately wanted to marry a noble just to escape the slums. Shaking off the cringe, Ellie gets full-body goosebumps at the thought of actually acting like a high society lady. Lady Nevada instantly drops the hammer, assigning chapters on visiting etiquette, horseback riding, stride correction, and perfect posture. Ellie absolutely loses her mind as Nevada stacks a literal mountain of thick books in front of her. Nevada tilts her head innocently, asking if it's too hard and offering to switch to a different brutal curriculum. Ellie collapses on the floor like a deflated balloon, ready to tap out completely. But then her pride kicks in. She remembers she reached the absolute peak of the magic tower in her past life. Her eyes ignite with determination, and she bursts into literal flames, deciding to speedrun the entire reading list out of pure spite. Lady Nevada is totally amazed, promising to match the young princess's fiery motivation. Next up is physical training. Warren bursts onto the scene, absolutely hyped to be Ellie's new swordsmanship teacher. Ellie looks at him skeptically, asking what changed his mind since he used to be so against it. Warren casually brushes it off, admitting he's just thrilled they get to hang out together. He eagerly asks what weapon she wants to learn first, offering up fencing or heavy arms. But after one look at her tiny frame, Warren decides she needs raw physical strength first. Cue a hilarious mental image of Ellie dragging a massive chain boulder. Ellie complains, reminding him he was supposed to teach her how to be the strongest swordmaster, but Warren just scoops her up like a proud dad. He aggressively pats her head, joking that she's his one and only favorite disciple in this lifetime. Sometime later, Warren enthusiastically slides into the room, announcing that the master has arrived for training. He tells her to hurry up but stops dead in his tracks when he sees the couch. Ellie is totally face-planted on the floor, a dark, gloomy aura radiating from her lifeless body. Warren's smile drops instantly as panic sets in. He rushes over, screaming her name and wondering what horrific tragedy just occurred. Holding her limp body, Warren dramatically apologizes to the heavens, thinking someone actually attacked her in the manor. Ellie weakly opens her mouth, begging Warren to pass a final message to her father. Her hand trembles dramatically as Warren begs her to speak. With her last ounce of strength, she whispers that corsets are completely crazy, leaving Warren screaming her name in pure comedic despair. Later on, she calmly explains to a bewildered Warren that the tight dress was literally choking the life out of her. Warren exhales a massive sigh of relief, admitting he almost broke his back from the jump scare because he thought an assassin got her. Ellie whines that social etiquette is way too brutal, begging to just quit the whole thing. She glares fiercely, asking what on earth that etiquette teacher was thinking. She crosses her arms, completely salty that they dumped a terrifying mountain of homework on her very first day. Lady Nevada beams, praising her student for studying so diligently. Meanwhile, Ellie is literally face down on the floor, dramatically begging for the sweet release of death. Watching from the sidelines, Warren grumbles, asking if the teacher thinks Ellie is some kind of superhuman. He completely deadpans, offering to permanently take care of the instructor if she's causing too many problems. He casually stretches, asking if he should just block the teacher from entering the manor tomorrow. Ellie snaps up, completely appalled, and scolds him for casually suggesting murder. She actually smacks him, yelling that his constant blabbering is annoying Alex too. Covered in fresh band-aids, Warren dramatically whines about her using violence against her own master. Deciding she needs some serious discipline today, he channels the strict energy of his own past training. He rubs his bruised arm, playfully calling her a foolish kid. But Ellie actually understands where he's coming from. She knows Lucas has a massive target on his back, with countless shadowy figures constantly aiming their swords at him. With the demon world in total chaos, she realizes she genuinely needs to be strong enough to survive. Warren grins, offering to easily wipe out a few enemies for her if she just says the word. Ellie internally dubs him an absolute psycho. She crosses her arms and tells him to get out if he's just going to spout nonsense instead of teaching her. Instead of leaving, Warren's gaze suddenly softens. He goes full softy, pulling her into a massive bear hug and teasing their little princess. He completely squishes her cheeks, cooing over how she tries so hard to act tough when she's actually just adorable. Fed up, Ellie literally punches him right on the top of the head. She glares fiercely, threatening to find a different master if he doesn't start taking this seriously. Warren rubs his newest head injury, looking down at her with a mix of surprise and respect. He flashes a genuine smile, praising her absolute fearlessness. He notes that a determined gaze and an unbreakable will are the most essential weapons on a harsh battlefield. He tells her that raw grit is the only thing that keeps you alive out there. But in classic Warren fashion, he immediately ruins the epic moment by joking that he doesn't expect her to actually fight anyway. Ellie glares, demanding he stop treating her with kid gloves. Warren pauses, recognizing the heavy resolve in her eyes. Impressed by her mindset, he officially kicks off their training session. And Ellie immediately begs for a 10-minute break. Warren ruthlessly denies the request, dragging her straight to the training grounds. Flash forward and the brutal etiquette lessons are actually paying off. Ellie is having tea in a gorgeous greenhouse. Princess Lena looks on in awe, completely mesmerized by Ellie's flawless, elegant posture. She compliments Ellie's hard work, noting how impressive she looks. Lena admits that out of all the times they've met, Ellie truly looks like a high society noble lady today. Ellie politely accepts the praise, though she's secretly unsure if it's sarcasm. Lena quickly apologizes if it sounded weird. Ellie waves it off with a smile, telling the timid princess not to take things so seriously. The narrator notes that initially, Lena only visited to express her gratitude. But now the royal princess is a constant fixture at the Duke's estate. She practically comes and goes as if she actually lives there. Ellie internally notes that while gaining royal trust is a massive flex, it also threatens to drag her straight into messy palace politics. But Ellie figures it's fine. The world doesn't care much about Lena since the throne won't pass to a princess anyway. Lena seems totally at peace with the fact that a son taking the emperor's position is basically a canon event. She admits she's perfectly happy living a quiet life like a pampered potted plant. As long as she gets to safely visit her rescuer, she is content. Despite the peaceful vibe, Ellie still feels a nagging sense of dread she just can't shake. Lena changes the subject, cheerfully mentioning the upcoming debutante ball. Ellie casually sips her tea as Lena notes that the Empress herself is stepping out of the shadows to host it. The pieces suddenly click in Ellie's head. The Empress is definitely using this massive party to ruthlessly reestablish her political dominance. Lena admits she's feeling super nervous about her ball gown and who her dance partner will be. Ellie casually brushes it off, reminding her friend that she's literally a royal princess. Lena pouts, explaining that she only feels truly comfortable around Ellie and her pet snake, Garnish. Ellie completely misses the point, asking why she's stressing so much over a simple party. Lena turns it around, pointing out that an absolute beauty like Ellie will have guys lining up for a dance. But Ellie is entirely distracted, begging Lena to drop the creepy two-headed snake that's staring her down. Lena hugs the reptile protectively, insisting Garnish is a precious child, which Ellie thinks is a massive problem. Lena smoothly turns the spotlight back to her friend. She eagerly asks what Ellie's game plan is. She wants to know if Ellie has locked down a partner for the debutante ball yet. Ellie drops a total bombshell, admitting she hasn't even thought about it. Sipping her tea like it's nothing, she assumes it's just a random matchmaking session where you awkwardly step on each other's feet. Lena practically drops her snake, yelling that a partner for your first social event is a huge deal. She starts fangirling, daydreaming about a romantic escort and a magical dance with a crush. Ellie just stares at her with dead eyes, realizing Lena is still living in a total fairy tale. In her mind, Ellie scoffs, knowing these balls are just filled with snobby rich kids trying to flex. As for having a romantic moment on the dance floor, that kind of stuff is already ancient history for her. A sudden flashback hits, showing a handsome man reaching out his hand to her past self. He gently pulled her onto the floor, asking her for a dance. When she awkwardly admitted she didn't know how, he didn't care at all. He told her she was wearing sturdy shoes, so stepping on his toes wouldn't be the end of the world. To a girl who knew absolutely nothing about romance, he patiently taught her the steps. He showed her how to let the music guide her. and how to move her body smoothly across the ballroom. Even if she didn't understand everything at the time, it remains a wildly beautiful memory. But snapping back to reality, Ellie knows that's just a story from her past life, and right now she has zero rhythm. Still, she wonders what would happen if she experienced that kind of romance again. She imagines standing under a glowing chandelier, laughing and spinning with someone special. But suddenly, the face in her fantasy turns into a much older, incredibly handsome Theo. Ellie's brain completely short-circuits, her face turning beet red in absolute shock. Lena leans in, asking what's wrong while Ellie frantically screams that it's nothing. Internally, she is having a total meltdown, wondering why the heck Theo just popped into her romantic fantasy. She buries her face in her hands, diagnosing herself with severe separation anxiety. Unaware of Ellie's internal crisis, Lena suggests Alex, noting they've been hanging out a lot lately. She imagines Alex looking like a total Prince Charming asking for a dance. But Ellie completely shoots that down without skipping a beat. To her, dancing with Alex would be like waltzing with a literal golden retriever. Lena tries again, bringing up the magical kid who used to be by her side, Theo. Ellie immediately covers her ears, begging her to drop it. Ellie tries to defuse the situation, arguing they have plenty of time to figure it out later. But Lena is starting to genuinely panic. She looks at her indifferent friend, worried sick about Ellie's total lack of social awareness. She fears that some random creep could swoop in and snatch Ellie up if she isn't careful. Clenching her fists, Lena vows to find Ellie the absolute perfect partner herself. Suddenly, Ellie cuts her off, hearing a strange noise coming from outside the greenhouse. She peeks out the window and is totally shocked to see Lucas standing in the garden. But he's not alone, he's having a private chat with Lady Nevada. Ellie's mind races, wondering why on earth her etiquette teacher is secretly meeting with her dad. Hiding in the bushes like a ninja, Ellie realizes Lucas would never stick around someone unless he was genuinely interested. Is the Demon King actually catching feelings? Hiding in the bushes, Ellie furiously tries to analyze why her dad is having a secret conversation with her etiquette teacher. She wonders if he's actively threatening her. Or worse, she thinks maybe the teachers were secretly ordered to watch over them the entire time. She assumes Lucas is just trying to find another annoying reason to bother them. But suddenly, Lady Nevada flashes a beautiful, blushing smile and softly thanks the Duke. Ellie and Lena look on in absolute shock. Ellie's brain completely stalls out, desperately trying to compute the wildly romantic atmosphere between the two. Lena gasps, instantly jumping to conclusions, but Ellie slaps a hand over her friend's mouth, aggressively telling her to stop. Ellie whispers that nothing is confirmed yet, and she absolutely refuses to hear gossip about her dad's love life from anyone else. She frantically tries to rationalize, hoping maybe the teacher just approached him first for something completely normal. Her train of thought derails completely when she sees what Lucas is doing. He holds up a blindingly bright, solid gold sculpture of Ellie's head. Without waiting for a response, he completely bolts from the scene, shouting that he has to go see his daughter. Lady Nevada is left standing in the garden, completely flabbergasted, wondering if she was just handed a bizarre souvenir. Watching from the bushes, Ellie cringes hard, knowing the teacher is definitely questioning her life choices right now. But to her shock, Lady Nevada actually covers her mouth and bursts into a soft laugh. She smiles warmly, murmuring that the Duke really loves his daughter. Holding the ridiculous golden statue, she genuinely calls it a lovely sculpture that perfectly captures the princess. Lucas pauses, flashing a rare soft smile, agreeing with her completely. The scene cuts to a flashback, showing Lucas showing off the golden statue like a proud dad, pointing out that the eyelashes perfectly match Ellie's. Back in the present, Lena stares in awe while Ellie slaps a hand over her own mouth, dying of secondhand embarrassment. She stares at her dad, completely unable to process if this absolute absurdity is actually real. The narrator notes that this whole interaction is a memory of past events at the manor. When Ellie and Lena accidentally stumbled upon Lucas in the garden, they were completely blindsided to see him voluntarily hanging out with Anne Nevada. The fact that Lucas, a demon king who famously despised humans his entire life, was casually chatting with a mortal was a massive plot twist. Ellie and Lena stuff popcorn in their mouths, completely invested in the drama and wondering if the genre of their lives is about to drastically change. Meanwhile, Kun steps in, casually asking his lord if he could maybe try treating people a little more kindly. Lucas doesn't even look up, completely obsessed with a glowing orb projecting a tiny hologram of Ellie. He flatly asks if there's actually a reason to do that, stating that important words shouldn't be wasted. Kun sighs, pointing out that he's still acting completely indifferent to the tutor who's been around for a while. Kun clarifies that it isn't necessarily a huge problem, but reminds Lucas that humans are way more delicate than he thinks. Lucas coldly responds that anyone who is employed receives appropriate compensation, so that should be the end of the transaction. Kun respectfully agrees with the logic. But he notes that after spending so much time with Ellie, it's become incredibly difficult for him to treat humans with that same cold indifference. He gently points out that since she's Ellie's tutor, they should be especially careful not to offend her. Kun flashes a knowing smile, stating that people fundamentally change depending on how they are treated. He brings up the kids in the dormitory, showing how much they've grown and improved just by being around Ellie's positive influence. He leans on the desk, smoothly suggesting that Lucas should at least treat the humans he interacts with as well as he treats his creepy little doll. Lucas pauses, seemingly actually considering the advice for once. Kun playfully asks if he can touch the Ellie doll just once, but Lucas immediately shuts him down with a harsh no. Flash forward, Lucas is walking with Lady Nevada in the garden, and she notes that he's quite different from the terrifying rumors. She points out that he's actually taking the time to show her around the garden himself. Lucas smoothly replies that since she's his daughter's teacher, it's the least he can do. Nevada smiles, praising Ellie's intelligence and noting how hard the princess works to keep up with the brutal etiquette lessons. Lucas listens quietly, his expression unreadable. Nevada gently adds that because of her background, there might still be areas where Ellie falls behind other noble children. Lucas completely ignores the warning, proudly declaring that his daughter is absolutely exceptional. Nevada just laughs it off. The narrator cuts back to Nevada holding a book, reflecting that she truly believes Ellie is growing up to be incredibly wise. She realizes that Ellie's growth isn't just from studying, it's fueled entirely by the Duke's overwhelming love. Watching the once terrifying Demon King act like a devoted father makes her realize that this is what true happiness actually looks like. Lucas stands tall and regal in the sunlight, radiating an aura that is totally unmatched. Seeing him like this, Anne Nevada thinks back on her own life, realizing how warm and happy it feels just to be around this family. Lucas softly notes that despite being a mere tutor, she must come from a pretty decent background. Anne smiles sadly, admitting she's an only child with zero family legacy left to carry on. A flashback shows the dark turning point in her life, the day her father suddenly vanished without a trace. As if that wasn't brutal enough, her mother's health completely tanked right after, leaving Anne to desperately figure out how to afford their massive, empty mansion. The memory shows her sobbing next to her sick mother while a cold-faced man packed up a suitcase, proving that marriage was officially off the table. Anne sighs, admitting to Lucas that finding someone willing to shoulder her mother's illness is basically impossible, especially since she isn't getting any younger. Lucas looks at her quietly as she bluntly lays out her reality. Who in their right mind would willingly marry a broke daughter with a chronically sick mom? But Lucas doesn't miss a beat. He smoothly asks if there really is no one out there for her. Anne is completely caught off guard. She blushes and looks away, muttering that Lucas is the only person who would ever say something so reassuring. Lucas leans in slightly, genuinely asking if she's underestimating herself, while Anne gets totally flustered. She awkwardly shifts her hands, acknowledging that despite officially being the Duke's highly respected tutor, no one has actually stuck around to properly appreciate her. Lucas's eyes soften and he quietly asks if that's truly the case. Anne turns to walk beside him, softly admitting that at least that's what she currently believes. But she looks out into the garden with hope in her eyes, confessing that she really wants to meet someone who will truly appreciate her. Without hesitating, Lucas offers to personally introduce her to someone if that's what she wishes. Anne politely declines with a soft, closed-eye smile, stating she can't get involved for personal reasons but thanks him for the kind offer anyway. Lucas turns his head, his expression totally unreadable as he casually states that there's something more important to discuss. He tells her he needs to talk about Ellie's lessons and asks to meet her briefly after the next class. Anne beams with a radiant smile, playfully warning him that it might take a while to talk through all her plans for Ellie. Lucas smiles softly, promising that he'll at least treat her to tea for her time. As he walks away, Anne watches him go, bowing her head slightly and whispering a sincere thank you, Duke. Cut to the interior of the manor, Ellie has urgently summoned Baba and the red-haired twin. The redhead asks what the massive emergency is. Ellie looks completely panicked, frantically demanding to know where the rest of the crew is. The twin happily reports that Mike went on a massive shopping spree with Bihan, looking totally fabulous carrying a stack of gifts. He casually adds that Kun is out on inspection duty, leaving only them behind. Ellie completely facepalms, groaning in absolute despair. She curses her luck, wondering why the only two guys left in the manor are the absolute most clueless idiots of the bunch. The two guards absolutely lose it. They start yelling at her, deeply offended, screaming that they are way older and obviously know way more than she does. Ellie rubs her temples, taking a deep breath and deciding to just test their so-called wisdom. She gets straight to the point, asking the boys if her dad has been acting weird lately. They completely blank, asking what she means by strange. Baba, the big brooding guy, literally thinks she's asking if Lucas ate some bad food and got food poisoning. Ellie scratches her cheek, realizing she's dealing with negative IQ levels. She nervously tries to rephrase her question. Finally, she just blurts it out, "Do you guys think Dad has a crush on someone?" A pop-up asks the reader to support the translation team while the boys process the absolutely unhinged question. The redhead is totally confused by the concept of their lord actually liking a person. He immediately shuts it down, calling Ellie a fool and stating that the only person Lucas likes is her. Ellie sighs, annoyed that they're completely missing the point. The redhead scratches his head, asking if there's been any actual signs, like Lucas secretly meeting up with someone. Baba actually strokes his chin in deep thought, wondering if Lucas has been frequently talking to someone specific lately. A flashback hits showing Lucas and Lady Nevada chatting alone in the room, looking completely comfortable with each other. Another memory surfaces of Lucas casually handing Lady Nevada a nicely wrapped gift box. The boys finally put the pieces together. The redhead gasps, realizing that giving out gifts is definitely strange behavior for the Demon King. But he quickly backpedals, arguing that they can't jump to massive conclusions just from a gift. He firmly insists that there is absolutely no way their lord actually likes humans. He clarifies that while Lucas might not actively hate people anymore, that definitely doesn't mean he likes them. Ellie immediately points to herself, asking where she fits into that flawless logic. The boys absolutely panic, aggressively insisting that Ellie is Ellie and operates completely outside the normal rules. The redhead leans in, genuinely asking why she's suddenly so hyperfixated on this, asking if she truly believes Lucas could fall for someone else. Ellie breaks into a cold sweat, muttering that it would be a massive, world-altering deal if he did. If the Demon King actually falls in love with her mortal tutor, that could be wildly dangerous. The redhead shrugs, brightly suggesting she just ask Lucas directly, confident he'll answer her. Ellie absolutely screams no, in pure terror. Just then, a chilling voice cuts through the air. Lucas appears directly behind her like a horror movie villain, asking what exactly she wanted to ask him. Before Ellie can stop him, the clueless redhead happily blurts out, "My lord, do you have someone you lee?" But Ellie violently claps her hand over his mouth. Lucas tilts his head in confusion while Ellie desperately covers it up by screaming that she really likes lions and desperately wants to see one. Lucas just looks at her like she's absolutely lost her mind. Ellie offers to grab something for the silver-haired lord. The dark-haired guard asks where he's heading since his schedule is totally clear for the day. The lord casually mentions he isn't going out. Instead, he's just having a quick tea consultation with Ellie's tutor in the greenhouse. He walks off, leaving Ellie absolutely stunned. She starts sweating, realizing this is the first time he's ever voluntarily hung out with a human. And to make it weirder, it's someone with zero noble status. Without missing a beat, Ellie shifts into full spy mode and demands they follow him. She practically drags her friends along to scope out the vibe. The trio camps out in the bushes like a bunch of stealthy ninjas. Through the greenhouse window, the tea party looks totally normal. Ellie wants to get closer, but the dark-haired guard warns that eavesdropping magic will definitely blow their cover. The redhead starts whining about his legs going numb, wondering why she's suddenly so obsessed with the Lord's love life. Ellie glares from the bushes, knowing this might be a massive deal. When the redhead teases her for being jealous, she looks ready to absolutely deck him. He points out the Lord treats the tutor just like he treats Ellie, which only makes her more defensive. Her expression darkens as she quietly reflects on her past life and her regression. She remembers a timeline where the Lord and the tutor were actually close. And surprisingly, the tutor wasn't even a villainess back then. Now Ellie is totally spiraling, muttering to herself while gripping her disguise branches like a madwoman. Realizing they can't hear a thing, the dark-haired guy suggests they just head back. But Ellie is too deep in her own head, debating if she should use surveillance magic or literally lock the Lord up. Her friends sweat drop, totally weirded out by her sudden Yandir energy. Meanwhile, back inside, the tutor is visibly sweating bullets and looking around nervously. The Lord takes a sip of tea and tells her not to stress too much. He notices she hasn't even touched her cup and her hands are trembling. She quickly makes up an excuse, claiming she isn't feeling well today. The Lord is completely chill about it, gently suggesting she head home to rest. She eagerly takes the out. Excusing herself, she practically sprints out of the room. Outside, she pulls a suspicious little vial from her pocket. Her face is twisted in guilt as she admits she just couldn't go through with it. Suddenly, a memory hits her of a sinister voice mocking her hesitation. A flashback shows a menacing guy in dark robes berating her. He ruthlessly reminds her that her mother is on her deathbed while she wastes time. He smiles like an absolute psychopath, blaming her for her mother's fading health. The tutor begs him to stop, looking completely broken. But the villain isn't having it, telling her that her answers aren't good enough. Back in the present, she tries to justify her failure, claiming there were too many people around today. The memory of the villain scoffing at her excuses flashes again. He warns her that the clock is ticking. She clutches the tiny poison bottle, her knuckles turning white. The villain's voice echoes in her head, reminding her that her mother's lifeline is slipping away. He makes it crystal clear that every second she hesitates brings her mother closer to the grave. Driven into a corner, she had promised the villain she'd get it done next time to save her mom. His instructions were simple: feed the Duke the poison to neutralize him. Back in reality, the tutor stands alone in the garden, carrying the weight of a massive betrayal. She glances back, clearly torn on what to do next. Meanwhile, a group of knights strolls down a grand hallway, casually discussing how the upcoming debutante ball is being moved to the Duke's office. A blonde knight named Alec listens as his buddy explains the upcoming ball. Apparently, thanks to some recent contributions, even regular knights are allowed to attend this year. But Alec gets completely distracted when he spots someone familiar out of the corner of his eye. It's the princess's tutor, sneaking through the garden and looking totally suspicious. His friend keeps hyping up the ball as a way to climb the social ladder, but Alec isn't listening at all. The guy mentions how a good family background is all it takes. But when he turns around to hype Alec up, the blonde knight has completely vanished. Another guard casually points out that Alec wandered off a while ago to check something out. Alec stealthily pushes through the bushes, tracking the tutor's path. He looks down and spots a strange, jeweled brooch lying abandoned in the grass. Meanwhile, back inside, the silver-haired princess wraps up her lessons. She gives the tutor a bright, innocent smile as they say their goodbyes. But the absolute second the door clicks shut, her whole vibe flips as she pulls out a massive stack of intel. She's been doing her homework and has dug up literally everything on her teacher, Annie. Turns out Annie is a minor noble from a tiny, rundown village on the outskirts. With her dad missing and her mom deathly ill, she's the only one keeping her family from going totally bankrupt. The princess realizes this tragic backstory makes Annie the perfect, easy-to-manipulate pawn for the real villains. She admits her paranoia is basically bordering on a full-blown obsession right now. But instead of just stressing out, she opens her desk drawer and grabs a magic staff. If the world is heading toward destruction anyway, she decides she might as well take matters into her own hands. She pumps her mana into the staff, noting it's been a hot minute since she used this kind of tracking magic on a normal person. A magical map projects the tutor's glowing silhouette, revealing her exact location. But the princess pauses, looking completely confused. She wonders why the heck her teacher is still loitering around the Duke's castle instead of heading home. Her eyes widen in panic as she senses something seriously wrong. Cut back to the garden where Alec finally catches up to the nervous tutor. He holds out the dropped brooch and Annie flinches like she just saw a ghost. She stammers, frantically asking for it back and claiming it's super important. But Alec isn't buying it, pointing out the weird pattern on the back and noting it definitely isn't basic protective magic. He tells her that any suspicious magical items found on the Duke's property have to be reported immediately. Since she's the princess's tutor, he decides his first stop will be to tell the princess herself. Annie practically jumps out of her skin, begging him to wait. Her face distorts in pure terror as she realizes the royals are about to find out she's been secretly meeting with dark wizards. Suddenly, she hunches over and starts giggling like an absolute maniac as a dark purple aura explodes around her. The tutor goes full villain mode, her eyes glowing as a sinister entity takes over her body, thrilled to finally have a physical vessel. Alec realizes he's completely cooked and immediately draws his sword. The possessed tutor mocks him, asking why he even bothered getting involved. With a creepy smile, she summons a blast of dark, shadowy tentacles straight at him. Before Alec can even swing, the magic grabs him by the face, tossing him back like a total ragdoll. The entity shushes him, deciding Alec's strong knight body will make a way better puppet than this weak lady. But before the monster can finish the job, a familiar voice screams out in fury. The princess kicks the gates open, blasting the area with her own intense magic. Glowing with power, she glares daggers at the demon and orders it to get its hands off her friend. She steps forward, staff blazing, ready to absolutely wreck this shadow creature. The entity actually steps back, caught off guard by her insane aura. The princess looks back in a panic, frantically asking if Alec is okay. Alec is battered and sweating, but he assures her he's still in one piece. As a massive, terrifying shadow projection looms up behind the tutor, they realize just how bad the situation is. Alec notes the dark energy feels exactly like the crazy magic the princess faced during her last major incident. Gripping her staff tight, the princess realizes her poor teacher is being completely mind-controlled by the real enemy. The princess watches the dark aura explode, realizing the tutor was working with demons from the very beginning. She grips her staff tightly, finally understanding why Alec went out to investigate alone. A deep sense of dread washes over her as she faces the demonic entity. A quick flashback shows her sitting in bed while an expert explains the terrifying reality of these monsters. He warns that strong demons hijack the minds of weak-willed humans, using them as living puppets. Once inside, the demon gets free reign over the host's magical power. But the terrifying catch is that the energy being burned belongs entirely to the human vessel. He explains that as the mind erodes, the host's ego completely collapses. The young princess listens closely, taking in the heavy information. The expert delivers the final blow. Once the power runs dry, the human host straight up dies. He gives her a gentle smile, relieved that she managed to survive her own past encounter with this dark magic. The princess looks down, thankful but fully aware of the stakes. Back in the present, she remembers how these shadow creatures treat humans like cheap, disposable batteries. They know exactly how to push a human body to its absolute limits. A memory flashes of a different villain who used the exact same possession tactics to hide in plain sight. He would jump from body to body, taking over innocent people whenever he needed to. The princess recalls how he just smirked and gave sarcastic remarks when she tried to stop him. The possessed red-haired knight from her memory glares, totally helpless under the demon's control. Shaking off the flashback, the princess starts sweating, realizing history is repeating itself right in front of her. The demon tutor laughs like an absolute psychopath, mocking the princess for spacing out during a fight. She charges up a massive, crackling sphere of dark magic, ready to attack. The princess throws up a magical barrier and yells for Alec to grab his sword while she holds the line. The possessed tutor smirks, completely unbothered by their teamwork. She actually praises the knight for lasting this long, noting his body is way stronger than her current host. The demon declares she's going to push him just a bit further so she can steal his body next. With a flick of her wrist, she fires a devastating blast of dark energy straight at them. The princess grits her teeth, realizing she hasn't recovered enough strength to hold off an attack this heavy. The demon casually reveals that she already set up a soundproof barrier around the courtyard, cutting off all their backup. No matter how loud they yell or how big the explosion is, no one is coming to save them. The princess's defense spell starts cracking and she knows it's about to shatter. She squeezes her eyes shut as the dark magic finally breaks through. But before the blast can hit her, Alec dives in front, tanking the attack like an absolute boss. The princess gasps as he staggers back, bleeding but still standing between her and the enemy. The demon just chuckles, finding the knight's chivalry completely amusing. She notes that for a kid, the princess packs a ridiculous amount of power. A wicked smile crosses her face as she realizes kidnapping the princess is the ultimate blackmail material. Alec fiercely steps forward, declaring he'll never let her lay a finger on the royal, even as the princess begs him not to move. The demon laughs, deciding to reward his loyalty by slaughtering him right in front of his master. The princess panics, knowing that if this keeps up, they're both going to get completely wrecked. But just as she prepares to risk it all, a massive wave of glowing green magic erupts into the courtyard. The demon flinches back in shock as her dark aura is instantly neutralized. Alec and the princess look up, totally stunned by the swarm of radiant magic butterflies. The princess breathes a sigh of relief as she recognizes the spell. A tall, green-haired mage steps out of the glowing swarm, casually checking if the princess is okay. She excitedly calls out his name, Theo, thrilled that backup finally arrived. They are completely baffled as to how he bypassed the demon's isolation barrier to find them. Theo reveals that a tiny, magical familiar managed to slip through the net and tip him off. The princess smiles, impressed that his summoning magic has leveled up this much. Theo reassures her that the rest of the knights will be crashing the party any second now. With the cavalry here, the princess turns to check on Alec, who stubbornly insists he's fine despite being covered in blood. Alec smirks despite being covered in blood, joking that getting hurt to save the princess was totally worth it. Ellie gives him a relieved smile, glad her knight is still in high spirits. But the possessed tutor is absolutely losing her mind over Theo's glowing butterfly summons. Annoyed by the interference, she charges up a massive sphere of dark magic. She fires a devastating laser beam straight at the mage, trying to wipe him out first. Ellie yells for Theo to watch out, warning him this isn't just some basic demon. But Theo doesn't even flinch, smoothly stepping in front to protect her. He completely tanks the demonic blast using his summon, leaving the entity totally rattled. Wasting no time, Theo commands his magic to stop her movements. He casts a binding spell, his eyes glowing with intense green mana. Suddenly, a massive magical serpent wraps tightly around the tutor's arms. The demon thrashes around, completely shocked that a mere human has this level of summoning power. Theo casually notes that this demon is pretty unusual, much like the princess herself. Realizing she's completely outmatched, the demon curses under her breath. She seriously considers falling back before things get worse. But before she can even take a step, a chilling voice asks where she thinks she's going. The silver-haired duke suddenly appears, absolutely furious that someone dared to attack his mansion. In a flash, he lunges forward and grabs the possessed tutor right by the throat. He lifts her off the ground like a rag doll, his red eye glowing with pure murderous intent. The demon chokes, suddenly realizing she just messed with the absolute worst guy possible. Ellie's face lights up as she calls out to her father. She playfully scolds him for being late, but she's honestly thrilled to see him go into full overprotective dad mode. Lucas brutally mocks the demon, asking if her master forgot to teach her basic manners. The entity struggles in his grip, demanding to know if he's just trying to insult her. The demon smirks through the pain, bragging that her master, Kerha, is already completing his grand preparations. But Lucas just glares back, bluntly telling her that she's way too weak to even stand in Kerha's shadow. He tells her to go warn her master personally as he unleashes a terrifying surge of crimson lightning. The sheer force of his magic literally starts cracking the demon's host body. Lucas watches coldly as the dark entity gets absolutely curb-stomped under his overwhelming power. With a final threat, the demon's shadowy essence is blasted completely out of the courtyard. Instantly dropping his menacing aura, Lucas turns around to check if his daughter is hurt. Alec watches in pure awe, totally fanboying over how easily the Duke handled the situation. Lucas kneels down to inspect the unconscious tutor, confirming this was definitely the work of Kerha's pawn. He pieces it together, realizing the demon had been hiding out like a rat by using this poor woman as a vessel. Ellie looks at her teacher with deep concern. She realizes this exact demonic force is the same one that heavily injured her father in her past life. Lucas asks if she's worried about the tutor, but Ellie clarifies her feelings. She admits that the woman has probably been suffering like this for a long time and wants to hear her side of the story. After all, watching someone die as an empty shell is just too brutal. Lucas casually agrees, reassuring Ellie that he only used enough mana to knock her out, so she's not going to die. With the demon exorcised and the barrier down, the courtyard finally returns to peace. Ellie notes that Alex survived without dying, completely changing the tragic timeline she had been so worried about. But as she looks at her father, she can't stop thinking about the demon's comment regarding his lost strength. She wonders what on earth changed from her previous life and what massive secret Lucas is hiding from her. Still exhausted, Ellie is escorted back to her huge bedroom to recover. The guards leave her to rest, though her mind is still completely racing with unanswered questions. They told her to rest, which in noble terms basically means she's on strict house arrest for her own safety. Propped up in bed, Ellie sighs, knowing she just has to stay put for now. But as soon as the doors open, the very first person to visit her is Annie, the tutor. Looking completely guilt-ridden, Annie repeatedly bows her head in a desperate apology for everything that happened. Ellie reflects on what exactly drove her tutor to the dark side. In her absolute lowest moment of despair over her dying mother, a mysterious guy named Kerha approached her. He promised he had a surefire way to cure the illness. But the catch was brutal. She had to use a deadly poison to assassinate Lucas. Kerha totally played her, exploiting a desperate human's weakest point. But at the end of the day, Annie still accepted the twisted deal. Because she put everyone in danger, her punishment is permanent exile from the duchy. Theo breaks the news to Ellie, admitting the Duke specifically told him to keep his mouth shut about it. Ellie gives a small smile and thanks him for the honesty. Still, a part of her is completely shocked that her ruthless father actually spared the traitor. She flops back onto her bed, feeling a bit unsettled by the whole situation. She understands the sheer panic of a desperate person. But she still knows Annie's actions were unforgivable. She couldn't blame her for grasping at straws, even if that straw was a literal rotten rope. Meanwhile, the Duke is taking no chances. Convinced this incident is tied to a larger demonic plot, he dispatches Warren and a squad of knights to hunt down any lingering traces. Theo also reveals that Lucas personally saw Annie off in a carriage. The Duke apparently made sure she left safely just so Ellie wouldn't worry. Theo casually mentions Lucas's exact words. He wouldn't let anything happen that Ellie didn't want. Ellie's eyes go wide at her dad's unexpectedly soft side. Flustered, she buries her face in her bed, groaning about him being a total show-off. She whines about why he always acts like a cryptic edgelord instead of just communicating normally. Theo laughs at her reaction, gently telling her to just focus on resting for now. But before they change the subject, Ellie looks up and sincerely thanks Theo for jumping in to save her the second he got back. She admits that without his perfect timing, things would have ended in an absolute disaster. Theo stands quietly, taking in her genuine gratitude. Suddenly, he beams like a proud puppy, totally eating up the praise. He leans in, eagerly asking if she noticed how much he's leveled up. Then his playful vibe completely vanishes as he looks at her seriously. He summons a glowing magical bird, recalling the exact moment she took him in. He remembers swearing on his life to protect her small hands, promising to become her ultimate weapon. He tells her that her kindness completely saved him. Gripping his sword hilt, he vows to finally prove his worth. Looking her dead in the eyes, he promises to protect her forever. The sudden heavy atmosphere makes Ellie sweat drop, completely caught off guard. Desperate to lighten the mood, she awkwardly asks if he's greeted the others yet. She points out it's been ages since he returned, so the dormitory kids would love to see him. Theo smiles and mentions he bumped into Alec on his way over. He assures her the blonde knight is recovering nicely and his swordsmanship has definitely improved. But then Theo's expression drops again. Ellie immediately voices her intense worry for Alec, since the guy literally tanked a demonic attack for her. Theo suddenly gets super salty, pouting that she seems way more concerned about the knight than him. He totally hits her with a guilt trip, muttering that maybe she just doesn't need him anymore. Ellie panics, flailing her arms like a maniac as she frantically denies it. Theo turns his back, acting completely wounded. He brings up all the sweet letters they exchanged, saying he thought she was actually excited for his return. Surrounded by a dramatic floral aura, he hits her with the ultimate pout, asking why she isn't asking about him. Flustered by his dramatic pout, Ellie stammers that she was just about to ask how he was doing. In her head, she's completely losing it over his weaponized puppy dog eyes, wondering where he learned to act so shamelessly cute. She quickly clears her throat to regain her composure and pivots, asking what he's actually been up to at the Magic Tower. Theo's expression turns serious as he admits he's been soaking up as much knowledge as humanly possible. He explains that the senior mages told him he'll be able to handle his massive power way better once his body fully matures. Satisfied, Ellie smoothly changes the subject, asking if he's allowed to attend her upcoming debutante ball. Theo confirms that his new Magic Tower status basically gives him a VIP pass, adding that it would be a huge honor to go. But Ellie just sighs and leans back, totally dreading the over-the-top royal party. She complains that she hasn't even picked a partner yet, making Theo subtly perk up at the massive opportunity she just handed him.